Developments over the Mathew Kyalo Mbobu saga are very disturbing. Very disturbing indeed. Now, regulars of this channel will remember that in my previous video, I pointed out that despite the information I was giving you, inside information of what was really happening, and my views, which could possibly point to the direction of the suspects, you remember I said that it is very possible that some wakubwa would emerge with some narrative suddenly, which would look very believable. Well, hours after my video went live, hours, somebody has come up with a dossier that has appeared in our local media, the mainstream media, detailing money he owed, loans he took, even from Shylocks. Can you imagine that? Cases where he had been sued, etc., etc. And clearly the whole idea was to damage very badly the character of the late slain lawyer, Bwana Kyalo Mbobu. Now, why would somebody want to do that? The man is gone. Why would somebody want to do that? Well, karibu sana to my show, where we're going to dive into that and also some other very surprising information that is emerging. Yeah, I'm telling you, this case is not small. And I believe, as I predicted, this thing is going to open up a can of smelly worms you will not believe. Twende kasi. Now, in many African cultures, it is taboo to talk bad things, to talk evil about the departed. Okay? I don't agree with that custom. In fact, if you frequently attended funerals in Africa, you would believe that there are no evil or bad people in Africa. Everybody is good. Okay? This is an important piece of information directed at those behind this smear campaign against the slain lawyer. It may not work as well as you want it to work, because our DNA refuses us to character assassinate those who have departed. Be as it may, it is also useful to note, from a legal point of view, it is not possible to defame the dead. Nobody will ever sue you for destroying the character of somebody who is no longer with us. It seems that common law does not care about legacy. Folks, what has happened here is that this is a very well organized, choreographed, money has been used, campaign to convince Kenyans that the slain lawyer was a bad guy. Okay, if I can put it like that. And so the question is, why? This guy is gone. Why? Why would somebody spend money and effort digging up such things within such short notice? Imagine even information about loans from several Shylocks. Do Shylocks keep records which are available to the public, which a journalist can go and check out and confirm and verify? Answer that one. This one tells you without any shadow of doubt that iko kitu hapa, and whatever is here is huge. Let us agree on that first before we go anywhere else. Okay? Now, before I go into the possible theories of who this may be, although if you took in my last video, it should be rather obvious, very obvious. But before I go into that, this is not the first time in our country, that people are going out of their way, spending money to create a narrative after an assassination. Did you know that exactly the same thing happened after the assassination of Tom Mboya on 5th July 1969? Now, I know this lawyer was not a politician. Although he brushed shoulders with the high and mighty, including politicians, he was not a politician. But I think it is useful to take note of how effective narratives are. And this one of Mboya, I believe, is very relevant to the Kyalo Mbobu current case. Okay? The narrative which was created after that assassination of Mboya was a negative narrative towards an entire community, the Luo community. I believe one of the key objectives was to limit sympathy towards that community, even after the great injustices of 1969, including the very terrible Kisumu massacre of 25th October 1969, the assassination of one of the most brilliant lawyers this country has ever produced, Agwins Godek, who was also the Foreign Affairs Minister, and then of course the assassination of Mboya, and the house arrest of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. It was clear that the government was going after a community that was a threat to the presidency of Jomo Kenyatta. Okay? I've done many videos on that, which you can find elsewhere on this channel. But let's stay on point. So the whole idea was to completely trash an entire community. And guess what? It worked. Wajaluo ni wachafu, Wajaluo watairi, Wajaluo wanarusha mawe kila wakati, etc., etc. And it's stuck in the minds of Kenyans. And this terrible injustice against the community has had far-reaching, terrible consequences on Kenyans. Even in marriages, or would-be marriages and love affairs, there are many families in our country even today. If the young man or the young woman takes a would-be life partner to his parents, and that man or that lady hails from the lake, there's going to be a problem. I believe as a nation we have now reached that place where we need to look at the mirror and look at ourselves. Why? Why should it matter if my son fell in love with a beautiful lass, usually very intelligent, from the lake? What is the problem? Please make me understand. Anyway, I don't want to get carried away. You know, public sympathy is not a small thing. It is not. There were riots after Mboya's death in Nairobi. Very serious riots. Very recently, you'll remember, there were riots after the passing on of that young man who was a teacher in Voi, Albert Ojwang. And therefore I'm thinking that what is happening here is that somebody is fighting to ensure that there will be no public sympathy towards the slain lawyer, Kyalo Mbobu. Yeah? So that people don't follow up so much on this case, which we're being told about by President Uhuru Kenyatta's cousin, yeah, Captain retired Kumu Muigai. Actually, make no mistake about it, the world is run by narratives, and people remain in power through narratives. You don't believe me? Let me give you a quick example from ancient history. One day, a long time ago, an army was coming back victorious from major victories in wars. And then a group of women, who I suspect were very attracted to a very young, handsome man called David, started singing a song. In the song they said that their favorite, David, kills tens of thousands of the enemies of the nation. But then the king, the authority over that country, the ruler, King Saul, kills not tens of thousands, only thousands. That narrative caused problems. David did not rest. He was always on the run, fearing for his life, for many years. So don't joke with narrative. Narrative ni kitu hatari. And whether we like it or not, narrative runs our lives. So the late lawyer, according to this information, I laughed when I read in the article. They called it investigative piece. At really? Investigative piece. Hey. You know what happened here? Is that somebody just came with everything packaged nicely. Pop! Journalist akapewa. Where's the investigation in that? Did these reporters verify this information? From Sherlock's in some dark corners in Isli, at night, dark, dangerous corners. Did they verify all this information about these loans? 10 million from a Sherlock, which with interest grew into 24 million, and currently it stands at 72 million. Did they verify that information? Which Sherlock? Anyway, there was also the expose about the slain late lawyer, not handing over money to clients. Now, from experience I've learned, every story has two sides. Sometimes a story even has three sides. Okay? Now, we only know one side, and many things would have gone wrong, many things would have happened between the time the money was supposed to be transferred from the lawyer to the client. So many things can happen. I'll give you a quick example. Exchange rate manenos. You remember there's a time the Kenya shilling miraculously recovered. Remember that? Now, if that happened, when a transaction was in mid-air, can you imagine the possible issues that could crop up? Anyway, I'm not trying to defend anybody. I'm just saying every story has two sides. And you see, the thing which is making me nauseous about this whole thing is that the person you're attacking, the person you're destroying, is not in a position to defend themselves. And it is even worse than that, because there are people grieving. There are people waiting to bury a loved one. And this thing has happened so suddenly. Many of them are still in shock. Trust me, I've been there. And then you come out with something like this. I mean, the late slain lawyer had children in school. And those children in school have friends. And those friends are reading this information in the media about the dad of their friend in school. Do you understand the repercussions here? This is in very, very bad taste, in my opinion. Very bad taste. Because right now, top on the list should be finding the people who are behind this ugly, brutal thing they did to this lawyer. Not starting to give us a life history of somebody. Everybody has skeletons in their closet. Everybody. So we're going to dig out those, and we have not yet found the people responsible for this. And this is very likely, the people who are responsible for this are the people giving us this information, so that they divert our attention away from focusing on the brutal nature of this crime and finding out who did it. And very important, who sent them to do it. Okay? And by the way, there is something which is very wrong with this story. It doesn't make sense to me, because the initial information we got is that this was a very wealthy and successful lawyer. And we could see the high likelihood of that being true, because where he lives in Karen, his neighbor on one side is former AG Amos Wako, and on the other side, it's former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Those are his neighbors in Karen. And so, although it is possible, but I still find it tricky to carry that factual information into this information that we've seen all over the media about the loans and being blacklisted by banks and so on and so forth. I find it very difficult to merge those different pieces of information. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it is impossible. I just find it difficult. I'm just sensing there's something wrong here. Okay? It's not all adding up. I think that's a phrase. Now for those who are still insisting, that hii kitu serikali ilihusika, the information that the wife of the late lawyer, her name is Mbobu Kyalo, actually works at State House. Hey, she's the director at State House in charge of facilities, environment, and maintenance. So, your wife is working at State House. Would you really be an enemy of the state? You know, anybody who works at State House, they have to be very sure about you, because you could overhear things. I mean, things happen in State House all the time. You could overhear something sensitive. And if you're against this government, that will not be good. And therefore, in my opinion, and you're very welcome to have a contrary opinion, but in my opinion, the fact that this man had a wife who works in State House, I think makes it very, very unlikely that the hit had anything to do with this government. I know people don't like this government, but let's stick to the facts. Please, let's remove emotions from this and we figure it out. And then we can allow emotions in later when you know what is happening. Don't you think? In my view, this is only the beginning. Those who caught my previous video will know that I said this thing is going to open a can of worms. I think this is only the beginning, because what I expect next is even more revelations from the other side. The other side maybe even explaining to us why somebody would pollute our news with information like this about a dead man. Anyway, we will not have to wait long to see how this drama proceeds. Now, I believe every human, every person who is called a human, has a good side and a bad side. And of course that would include the man of the moment, a man called Rigathi Gachagua. There are so many people who do not like the man, but there are also very many Kenyans who love him. There are also, unfortunately, some Kenyans who don't like the community. Hii mambo ya community, say, the day we get out of tribalism as a country, that you can look at me and not look at my tribe, hiyo siku tutaenda mbali sana as a nation. Anyway, the issue here is that the character of a man called Rigathi Gachagua has both the dark side and the bright side. And what is happening in Kenya right now is that the ordinary wananchi are trying to cash in on the bright side of this man in order to help us liberate our nation. But meanwhile, there are some crazy things which are happening in the backroom of Kenyan politics. I cover them fully in my very latest highly sensitive special report. You can see details on your screens right now. And indeed, we are now in the period of Lala Salama. Anytime we're going to pull out this special offer, so you'd better rush. You can see details on your screens. For only Kenya shillings 1,999, you can have it. And I guarantee you, you will be amazed, you will be shocked, you will not believe. Now, there is also a way that you can ensure that you not only get this highly sensitive special report, but then you get all other special reports, past, present, and future, including non-political ones, like the very popular one we produced a long time ago in 2019, How to Survive in a Dead Economy. And you remember that time, things were not so bad. But then on this channel, we have a repetition of trying to look ahead, of trying to see ahead, beyond where most people are looking. Anyway, that is amongst the many other goodies you'll be able to get at no extra charge if you get something called a golden pass. You can see the details on your screens right now. I know this is not for everybody, but for only Kenya shillings 6,333, less than $50, you'll be able to have a lifetime golden pass. So that means it is not going to last for a year or two. No, it is permanent. Everything Kumekucha you'll be able to get. You can see details, yeah, what you need to do, just the usual number. And PAP, you'll get the Gachagua report, and then every few days, every week, you'll be getting sensitive reports, sensitive videos from the past, and also new ones, okay? Please, you'll also need to rush on this one because this offer is ending very soon. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.